Okay, as you move through the book, turn the page, you have this selection of chord shapes, more chord shapes for further exploration. And these are just some chord shapes that I think you'll find come up as you play more of this music. We got started with just a triad. That's a second inversion triad. And then we made it a major seventh. And that's the first chord shape. You know, there's a lot we can do with this shape. It's not just D flat major 7. Turns out it makes a nice B flat minor 9. Also makes kind of a cool E flat sus chord, 7 sus 4. You know, we could go on and on about how we can use this chord in context. That'll be important, but it's also kind of an infinite topic. So right now, to kind of keep you moving, I think the goal is chord practice, finding a way to get good at playing the cool chords. These chords, you're going to come up with them, whether it's a D flat major 7 or it's an E flat 7 sus with a 9 and a 13 or a B flat minor 9. That's secondary. You want to be able to play it. You want to be able to get to it quickly. You want to be able to access it. So that's a good chord shape, and I think that's a really nice musical way to get it in. It gets you listening to it. You have to feel it. You have to use it in a phrase. The next shape, it's another good chord shape. We're just pivoting that bottom note. What is that? Well, let's see. I think the most common application would be an E flat 13, but it also could be an A7 with a sharp 5, sharp 9. Let's just get to know that shape. Let's come back. I think a little bit of this some good pedaling. Maybe just one hand if you want to try it. Woo! You may not like that. You may think it's wonderful. Not important. The idea is to challenge your ears, challenge yourself physically, and get comfortable with that chord shape. And make it a musical statement. For years, I would just ask people to, play chord shapes up and down chromatically. That's good. Another thing to do is to play them up and down through the circle of fourths. That's good too, but there's something kind of academic about it. It doesn't call up any of the other resources we need to make music. Can I take this kind of peculiar sound and make it sound like a melody, like bring out the top note? That will make you know it, having to deal with it as music. This next one we've talked about, it's a so what chord. If you can, play it in one hand. This one I think actually sounds pretty cool. And, these bigger shapes, play them slowly. This next one, maybe that's like a B flat 7 with a sharp 9. Woo! I guarantee you, you'll use that. You'll hear Oscar Peterson. Very common one for, you know, dominance with a flat 9 or a sharp 9. That's a great sharp. That's a great shape. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one in measure 5. I don't have them labeled. There really aren't names for these shapes. You can play that in 2 hands, maybe leave the bass part out. Sounds kind of cool if you can play it in 1 hand. Slowly, maybe over the bass line. Wow, that's a good. Wow, I can just look. It looks dissonant. I have all of these notes I don't expect to see with D's and A's. Anyway, good to challenge you. If you move through this, you'll find that there are chord shapes that are related kind of by muscle memory. So the first 5 are kind of related to this second inversion triad. Then I switch over to a root position triad. And we make it a major 7 in 3rd inversion. Wow. Wow, that sounds so different. I've got all of these sort of, at one point I have like C sharp and F sharp. Whoa! Oliver Nelson, amazing saxophonist and arranger. You'll hear some of these sounds in his writing. It's cool. Here's a sound I associate with C minor 11th. You can play it in 2 hands, maybe leave the bass part out. It's cool if we put it over the bass line with, you know, slowly. Wow! Goes, and then from there we go to something, just a simple shift. If you can play it in 1 hand, it's kind of like an F7 or a 13, F13. Wow. This next one, 1 note changes. I'm better at doing that one in 1 hand than I am 2. Yeah. I can just pop it out in 1 hand. See what works for you. The next one, root position major 7. Wow, what is that going to sound like over our bass line? Wow, it's kind of sinister. Perfect force. Yeah, you have to be able to just call those up. And I've got you playing these 3 in 1 hand, and then practicing them 2 notes in each hand. It really feels different. Those 2 different ways. If you can play it in 1 hand, which I can't really, good for you. I just can't do that one. This next one I definitely can't do in one hand. This is a 13 voicing. That would be like E flat 13, kind of low, with the root out. So whoop. Whoops, I blew it. Here it is. Wow. You think, boy, oh boy, this is really dissonant. Well, think of it as challenging, and you need to be challenged in order to really grow how you hear. The next one may seem a little bit more consonant. We're building off this triad. A little brighter sounding. And this is a first inversion triad with the ninth or the 2 added. That may not sound very interesting, but boy, listen to it over the bass line. Wow, we're in major now. Very consonant. Who knew? This next one, your first inversion triad with the 4th in it. Also major, but a little different. That 4 and 3. Consonant, but not. I didn't expect that. Woo! The next 4 are from the octatonic or diminished scale. You'll hear this from time to time in the writing of Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn, and certainly in Thad Jones. It's a great sound. Sometimes I'll use this sound on the bridge of In a Sentimental Mood. Who knows? Contextualizing this sort of chromatic harmonization is another conversation. All of this is part of a longer process, and I don't want to get you bogged down in trying to understand everything all at once. Yet that's a great way to get you to stop playing. Trust me that learning these chord shapes and just getting some exposure to them will help you down the road as you just encounter them. Like, oh, I've played this before. That's what this is about. Answering like every how and why. We're not there yet. And maybe you're going to connect the dots anyway. Let's keep looking at some of these shapes. The four shapes at the top of this second page here, they all sound sort of the same. They come from the diminished scale. Great shapes to know. The last 8 are ones that have to be played with 2 hands. Just good ones. This next one, classic voicing for a 13 flat 9. And this last one, big thick chord. Sometimes these moments of chromatic harmony are used to accentuate a musical moment. Sometimes we use chromatic harmonization when nothing else interesting will come of spread harmonization or some other approach. There's a lot going on these 2 pages. I just didn't know where else to put it in the book. I figured since we were looking at chromatic harmonization with this blues that I made up, that we should just have this list of chord shapes. It's a limited list. I mean, there's so many cool chords that jazz pianists played. I thought I would just give you a sampling and come back to these 2 pages as you get more comfortable with your chord playing, and if you're feeling curious. Practicing chord shapes is one way that we get it done. So practicing chord shapes is just one of the ways we get things done. But there'll be times when you get burned out and need to kind of give yourself a break from all of this chord practice. It's a lot of information, and you know, your brain can get overloaded. So take breaks. Don't feel like you have to master all of this in this early stage of the process. Just dip in when you're curious. Something might come up in your listening. You're listening to some music and you're thinking, wait a minute, I think I've heard that chord shape before. What is that? Who knows? Come back to this. There's a lot of good information. The process of harmonizing a melody with these shapes is a great way to go beyond just playing it, labeling it. That experience will help you get attached to the shapes. They'll have meaning for you because you work with them to make them into a musical statement. You listen to them, studied them. But again, a little goes a long way with these 2 pages. I just put it here for further exploration. Don't dwell on it. Your best bet after this is to just move on to the next coordination exercise, get grooving again, get into Unit 3, keep grooving, grooving, grooving. We'll have these moments where you're studying harmony, and take your time, take breaks. Well, and that's part of the design. We try to have different activities so that you can kind of clear your head and come at things fresh. And keeping it fresh and interesting is, I think, part of how we keep moving forward and having fun.